Hey, Thrand here, and we're back with the Scottish Dirk. Actually, we had two viewers. One was Stephen Curtin, and he brought up that I had not mentioned the Bollock, or the Bollock. And that was an early version of this dirk or dagger. The Bollock die for dagger was started in the 13th century and existed all the way up in the time when they were making these designs. Another reason we're making this video is because of Rubber Kidney. Rubber Kidney wanted to ask questions like, would the pommel strike be any good? How durable is this dirk itself? Well, let's start off with a history. And yes, I'm very sorry because I did a brief history on dirks themselves. The term dirk, dork, dirkus, derk, and yeah, they came from the Bollock. I mean, pretty much that was the original dagger, and it basically means testes or testicles in a vulgar way, and it had two, for like a quillion or a crossguard, it had two bulbous areas right here that, when you held it, protected the hand, unlike this newer model here where we have more of a rain guard. Honestly, this is so you could carry it anywhere, in the rain, feasting, what have you. This newer evolution of the dirk, you actually have a rain guard that when it closes, just like on some swords where they do that with leather, nothing can get in the actual sheath and rust your blade. Also, one of the things they did in the more traditional, as they went up to the traditional era, it evolved into the actual basket weaving, or almost like a knotwork type design. But when they did this, it gave you a much better grip, and that's one of the things that Rubber Kidney asked is, how does it feel? Well, I can tell you that me thrusting with it, I didn't have my thumb on the back here because I didn't need to. This shape, when you grab a hold of it, if you look at this, you're not going to slip. There's no way your hand is going to slip up. Even without quillions, crossguard, or anything like that, like a suba or anything, your hand's not slipping at the blade. And due to the usage, I didn't really need quillions, because this type of dirk, you don't really need to, you're not going to need to take it and parry with it normally. The way it was used is much like a rondel, which a rondel was another evolution used against plate armor normally, but it was used from the same thing, the bullock, or the bollock, however you want to pronounce it. And I'm sorry I didn't mention that in the other one, forgive me. The bollock was carried by everybody from the Scandinavians in the 13th century onwards, the Flanders, the Welsh, the British. Matter of fact, the British had a version of it called the dudgeon, and that was based on the idea that the handle was made of boxwood, or boxroot, and that's what dudgeon means. And it was the same kind of design. You had the bollock design, and then you had a octagonal or rounded handle. But all of them also feature this broad piece in the back, much like a rondel, where you have the flat part towards the end. And another thing to bring about this thing that became, because Rubber Kidney is one of the ones that spoke with us, it was also called a kidney dagger later on. It went all the way up to the Tudors period. It was used by the border reivers, which are the raiders, the Anglo-Scottish raiders, and it was a very common dirk. But anyway, I don't want to go on too long, but it was always worn in this manner. So as you can see, it was quite phallic, and that's why they eventually went to the kidney name to make it sound a little more appealing, I guess, and less rude or harsh later period when people were more like that about things. But anyway, we'll go on and do the extra testing that he asked for, Rubber Kidney. And thank you, Stephen Curtin, for correcting me on something. I just basically did a history of dirks. That's why we even brought up the Japanese using them for naval officers. And that was a pommel strike. And it shattered the heck out of the brick. It didn't just break the brick like you would expect somebody who is focusing their energy or whatever to do. It shattered the brick. And this is slightly wet, so that's very, very impressive. I would say that a pommel strike, even though it's not really, really heavy, with the proper force behind the arm and the proper strike, could shatter a man's skull or injure bad enough that he's going to be out. Pretty much. And he wanted to know about the artwork and so on it, and how well it's made. And although that kind of damaged a little bit, none of the stuff came off of it. Hate to do that to it, but just to show you, none of the studs came out of it. They seem to be holding up well. I don't even say very much damage to the very hard wood handle. Nothing loosened. There's nothing loose here. I'd say it's very good Dirk. Okay, I wanted to talk about the sheath real quick. It's very high quality. These metal implements here are decorative now, but at one time these two pieces here actually held, because they carry these in feasting halls, it's noted that they held, I think there's some historical models of it, they carried a fork or a spoon, seriously. These carried feasting implements at one time. Some of them longer than this, some of them not, but that's what sometimes these two bands actually did. In this case, it's just very ornate, beautiful, and a reinforcement to your beautiful hardwood and leather sheath. And that was another question I had. How would it be cut, which is not an ideal cut, with a reverse grip? Let's say you were to cut somebody that way. That's not bad. Not bad at all. I mean, it's not the same thing as cutting like if you were cutting with a sword or in a conventional manner that everybody's used to. But yes, if you had to slice across somebody's belly, I think that would definitely do the trick. I mean, it's going to do what it's supposed to do, but I would much rather thrust than cut. As you see, that it would work. It's just not very long. There's not a lot of weight to it, and that's not a conventional cutting method. So. Okay, one of the features of having a flat pommel in the back like this, opposed to some of the newer models at an angle, it was a lot like a rondel. Not only does it keep your hand from slipping off the back, but let's say you were to get into a hard piece of armor or area that's hard to pierce, like in a niche, where they use really fine chain or sometimes heavy leather or lots of gambesson. You thrust in there, and even though it hurts, you could drive this with something else. I'm driving it much deeper than I could with my thrust. My thrust only went so far if you watched. And through all these layers of cardboard, which is much deeper than we got before, I got way past the false edge up to here easily. It could also be used to reinforce the thrust from the very beginning. If you had to thrust and, but we've got a moving target here. And drive it home. Just push it on in. Because you have a flat piece, you don't have something that's going to hurt your hand if you hit the back. Although it worked as a very good bludgeoning instrument. We noticed that earlier. So I would say all in all, this is good all around Dirk, Dirches, Dirk, however you want to pronounce it. It's an excellent blade. Has all the characteristics that it's famed for. The back, as it's talked about, as how it's not sharp. It's a lot like a saw, or it's serrated just to have that look. It has the etching, which is beautiful. It's a good transitional or traditional version of this weapon, and it can be used all the way up as a modern, like a 19th century implement as well to be carrying on your kilt if you're out at an event. I think it's excellent. I'm glad we got to go over the history. Sorry I forgot that I had mentioned a few things, and I'm glad I could test a little more out and show you how durable this blade actually is and how well made it is. Farewell.
Leave that on. Don't edit that out.
If you enjoyed our video, please like and subscribe. Find us on Facebook at Thrand and Eldgrim's Wall of Remembrance. Help improve our content. Donate at www.patreon.com/Thrand.